Getting into another segment of the Sit Down with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. On this segment, I'll be discussing the recent comments made by James Harden regarding 76ers GM Daryl Morey. Let's be honest with each other, Daniel. James Harden came out absolutely scathing remarks about the 76ers GM, pretty much saying he will never associate with an organization that is run by Daryl Morey, basically calling him a liar, a snake, all these different things. And it makes you wonder what exactly is the temperature with James Harden and his potential trade out of the 76ers. Because recently we just heard reports that the 76ers have ceased all trade talks surrounding James Harden, and they're expecting it to be an uncomfortable, you know, uncomfortable training camp or off season together, and they're expecting James Harden to report. So for me, listen, it's very evident the guy doesn't want to be here, right? Do you want to stop? Because we keep talking about the process. Do we want to stop? Do we want to stop essentially what they have, what they're trying to build in Philadelphia, especially with the new coach in Nick Nurse? Or do we expect them to get past the awkward stages and stuff like that? Because I believe if you have a disgruntled player, more so a disgruntled superstar such as a James Harden, at what point does it do more harm than help or good to keep him on the team? I think that this is a situation in which the 76ers better get a handle on it very, very quickly, because this is a situation that could really hurt Nick Nurse's reign as the 76ers coach long before it even begins. Daniel?
So I think there's a couple things that we should dissect here. First off, Nick Nurse, as you said, he's put in a terrible position. And this is where I'm not going to fault the guy, but he should have known what he was getting into. A guy like Joel Embiid, you got a guy like James Harden. You knew a lot of discombobulation there. You got the 76ers organization, 76ers fan base, a lot of different stuff's going on. The fact is James Harden is visibly upset, right? He's visibly upset, whether that means he wants more money, whether that means he wants out. He's upset. In my eyes, you got to move on from him right now. You got to look at the landscape of your team. It didn't work with Harden and Embiid. Let's just chop it at that, right? They had their chance. Yes, you can say injuries. Yes, you can say another year. But if we're being honest, what's another year going to do? They were healthy this year in the playoffs. What happened? They didn't succeed. In my eyes, if you're Daryl Morey, and backtracking real quick, I don't doubt that James Harden's telling the truth. I'm sure Daryl Morey and this organization probably is lying about certain things, telling him, hey, we're going to trade you. Hey, we're not. What I'm going to say is trade James Harden, get him out of there, or trade Embiid. You got to do something different. You cannot enter this year with James Harden and Joel Embiid still on your roster. That's the way I look at it, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen? You're going to run it back with the same group, with the disgruntled James Harden, a guy who already got out of Brooklyn, a guy who already got out of Houston. What's it going to do if you have just James Harden and Joel Embiid on this team? For me, I think you trade Harden, you roll with Maxey and Embiid, and you get some assets out of Harden. So that's the way I view it. I think this situation's too far gone. Trade Harden. You just can't roll with Harden and Embiid this year.
I have a question on what you said. I don't know if we know if Daryl Morey is the issue with 76ers. Hear me out, because James Harden, it didn't work in Brooklyn. James Harden didn't work in Houston. If Daryl Morey was so wrong, he was your general manager in Houston. Why'd you go to bat and say that you wanted to go to the Philadelphia 76ers, knowing that he was there to begin with? To me, at some point, we have to look at these athletes in the mirror and say, you know what, they might be toxic. When the future meme where it says, I'm not toxic, be toxic, whatever the case would be. Like, this could be a situation in which James Harden is toxic, because this will now be another team that you have joined in as many as 3 years. This will be your third team. Like Houston Rockets, Nets, Philadelphia 76ers, and then you're saying that you want to go to another team. Understand something. James Harden, you wanted to go to Philly. And you knew Daryl Morey was the general manager there. He was the same general manager that went to bat for you in Houston. But he's so awful, but you followed him there. No, this is a guy that is crying like a child, that when he doesn't get his way, he pouts. Yeah. He complains. He says, hey, dad, hey, mom, look at me. He's like a child that needs the attention. This is what we're facing right here with James Harden. At some point, we got to stop blaming the people that are just doing their jobs.
Yeah.
You think Daryl Morey wants to deal with a disgruntled James Harden or any disgruntled player that stops the process of his team, of his new coach? Nobody wants to deal with that. Of course not. And you know what? It's just one of those things where, James Harden, he falls out of love with his situation fast. He wants out quick. Look how quickly things turned in New York when he wanted out. In Brooklyn. It happened fast. And he made it known. When he wanted out of Houston, he made it known. He showed up fat.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like these are things that, again, I could see if it was a guy that always kept his mouth shut and just worked. But James Harden is always lets you know when he's disgruntled. And for you to come out and be as scathing, as disrespectful as he was to the general manager of the 76ers, forget the GM for a second, regardless of what your personal relationship is, how disrespectful you are to your teammates, to people that you called your brothers, to people that you're building something with. James Harden is that guy that when you play the game 2K and you look at their badges they have this short hourglass because he's not committed to a team. He's committed to what James Harden wants. And that's what I see. What do you think, Daniel?
I agree. I agree with the standpoint that James Harden is disgruntled and he wants out. He wants out, and both him and the organization at this point, it's going to be better that they just split ways, because James Harden, the way he's looking at it is he's disgruntled. For him to go out on social media and at a camp to say that about his GM, as you said, he was his former GM. I agree. James Harden is toxic. And this just goes back to the point where early in the offseason, for me, it's just, how does this linger? That's my question, right? How does this linger? How does this fester? Because this is on and off. I was talking to one of my buddies who is a 76ers fan. He says every other week, it seems like it's the opposite. It seems like Harden wants to play. It seems like Harden doesn't. If I'm Daryl Morey now, I see this and I take it into my own hands and say, okay, whatever happened, James, happened. I'm going to make a decision, because at the end of the day, James Harden has no leverage. He has no leverage. What assets are you going to get out of Harden? So that's the way I look at it. I think 76ers should trade Harden at this point. And because if Harden sits out, what's that going to do? So James Harden's in his own world right now. And I don't know what the hell he wants. But if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm making the decision for him and saying, hey, you may not like me, but at the end of the day, I'm your boss and I can ship you wherever, because I don't think he has a no trade clause.
At this point, I say screw what I can get for James Harden. You don't want a guy like that on your team. You don't want that toxic behavior on your team. And you don't want to stop you want to invest in guys that want to be there, like Tyrese Maxey, right? Like Joel Embiid. You want to work on that. And even Joel Embiid, I don't even know. So I kind of I'll hold my thoughts on that. But if you guys like more content like this, give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live from the First Star Logistics Studio.